Hello. Hello. Welcome to episode 19 of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony.
I'm Steven. Stevie Wildcard.
And every week, Stevie Wildcard, Steven and I get together and we talk about our latest attempt to bring something into the world, some sort of weird graphic novel, comic book concept that we're working on. This time it happens to be a semi-autobiographical time travel graphic novel musical. And we're doing great. We're making a lot of progress. Steven's making an exceptional amount of progress and it's all looking fantastic. This week we're going to do something a little different. We are going to talk about our progress because, we have stuff to say. But if you notice, we're wearing stuff.
Humbug.
So this week we're going to be talking about our issues that we've had in the past. We're going to have 3 weeks going through the three specters of our careers as comic book creators. And this one's going to be the ghost of comic book past. Then we're going to do the ghost of comic book present. And then the ghost of comic book that's yet to come / future. Right? Mm-hmm. This time I get to be Marley / ghost of the Christmas past, as you can tell by my ghostly appearance.
He's so ghostly, guys. I mean, look how ghostly he looks right now.
Mm-hmm. Watch. I'm gone. And I'm back.
And I have to be the most hipster rendition of Scrooge yet to be filmed, I think. So.
Yet to be filmed. I mean, I think that it's going to happen.
It's going to be Seth Rogen like, oh, I got Scrooge.
I'm sure. Bah humbug. So this episode we're gonna mostly be talking about what happened in the past. And I asked you, Steven, I'm gonna take this hat off. How do I look? I can't see myself.
Nice. You look now you look like James Bond.
I'll take it.
You look very good. now we're James Bond and then some fat guy in pajamas.
We are on point. This is what we needed. This is what our podcast has always needed, Steven. I don't know if anyone knows, but James Bond, the fat guy in pajamas, is going to sell. So we talked about, briefly in private, we talked about how, what we should discuss on the podcast and if it should just be comic books or what it should be. And it got me thinking. The whole hamster wheel started moving and I was wondering, trying to figure out how we started doing this in the first place and where it really came from. And what
I hope you remember better than me because I don't really remember the initial as much or as well as you do. I mean, I do know it had something to do with City on Fire / Come What May / The Absentees, but I really don't remember our first foray into that. I think it was maybe just that single image of the crew in the lighting room. I'm not sure.
I was going as far back as So Steven and I used to, so as soon as I had access to a video camera as a child, when we were in high school, as soon as I had access to a video camera, I was just wanting to film everything. This is in the, very, very early YouTube days when YouTube was just a place where you could upload videos to share with your aunts. It hadn't yet taken off. We definitely didn't recognize the potential. Wish we had, of course.
Yeah, we could be living different lives right now.
Of course. But what we used to do is we used to make videos just for fun, and we would improvise most of them, make videos, and show them to our friends in the garage. And we would just all get together, make the video, and then spend the rest of the night just rewatching it 100 times because it made us laugh endlessly. That was kind of what started me wanting to write. I started wanting to write film because our improv only got so far and we would just start giggling to death, So Steven's improv, Steven would improvise and we did a sort of a cop parody, a cops parody thing that was similar to Reno 911.
But before Reno 911, which is the crazy part.
That is crazy. So we did a really early cops parody, and I think I have the tape somewhere. I have to look for it. Definitely not going to find it this week. But anyway, in the future, I hope to find it for everyone.
Oh, that'd be so great.
It was called Officer Beef, and basically, I would get in the passenger seat of Steven's car, and I would hold the camera and do the siren effects with my mouth. And Steven would just improvise lines as Officer Beef, a police officer, just patrolling the streets. And it was amazing. It was fantastic. And it just inspired me endlessly to want to make more and more videos. But we got to the point where Steven was the only one who was willing to or able to at the time creatively improvise. So what I started to do was I started to write scripts. But what I quickly learned was not everyone's able to say lines from scripts, despite the fact that they're just words on paper. It's just some people. I don't know what it is. I don't know enough about it to know what it takes. Like if people just don't have the mental capacity, or if it's just too complicated as far as like if like anxiety gets too high. I don't know. Do you remember?
I think I do. I remember the calm down. I think we might have even talked about
about that a little bit. So in addition to just people having trouble with line readings, not really being fantastic actors, we also had a lot of issues with people who would agree to be a part of our short films. And then when they show up on the day, they would just be laughing, or they wouldn't take it seriously. And when I say take it seriously, I mean just do your part, and like have fun with it, as we were. But we had people who would show up and just simply, every time the camera got on them, they would laugh and never say their lines. And it was so discouraging that like we just slowly stopped doing the things, basically.
Mm-hmm. Tommy was pretty good at ad-libbing too.
Tommy was really good at ad-libbing.
Tommy was good at character creation too. Like he would just like come up with the craziest character.
Oh yeah. Not all of our characters at the time were very appropriate, and I apologize in advance if anyone sees any of the things and realizes that they were accidentally not so sensitive. They were intended to be. There was just like a bunch of dummies improvising, and some of the stuff that like some of the characters came out a little askew. That being said, we never did anything that was like harmful or hateful. It was all ridiculous and fun, and like some of it's still on YouTube, so good luck. But anyway, so we started making these videos. It was a lot of fun. I love doing it, but it got really, really hard to get people to act. And of course, I realized that one of the only people I could count on was Steven. And at the time, I was drawing and wanting to make a comic book myself, but I never really had the confidence in my own art to make something. But I knew Steven loved to draw, so I remember approaching Steven and saying, "Hey, we should work on something together." And this was right around the time when our group of friends was also talking about making a cartoon together. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, and I remember specifically Rob's cool, smart guy character, basically, because Rob had this opinion of himself. So
exactly. So we got around our version of a TV writer's room. It was just all of our friends sitting around, and basically Steven and I just making jokes back and forth with a couple of other people, and it just didn't pan out, of course. But the ambition grew between us, and we obviously like connected in a way where we wanted to keep working together. And I don't remember which idea came first, because I know we early on we worked on a thing called Pseudo Samurai.
I think that was the first one.
I think that was the first one. So we worked on this thing called Pseudo Samurai, and we only got a few pages. I know we showed them before, but I'll show them now. These are the pages that we worked on for Pseudo Samurai.
Oh, you have them. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a fun idea about this, this guy who was basically working and stuck in an office job, and he was so depressed all the time at his job that he would just go out into the woods and just put on a clip-on bun, grab a fire axe, and pretend he was like a traditional old school samurai the best he could. And he would basically speak in poems out in the woods and just wax philosophical out there. One day while he was doing this, he was attacking a fly, and he accidentally chops into a tree, and a robot falls from the tree. The robot scans him and mistakes him as Earth's mightiest warrior, and then basically warns him of a series of tests that are about to occur, in which he's going to have to prove that Earth is worthy of the wider galactic atmosphere or like environment. So it's like basically aliens are going to test us by finding our mightiest hero and battling against them. And it was fun. We started, we worked on it. We really only got a few pages done that I recall. And then we just kind of, do you remember why that one petered out?
I don't. I really don't. I think the thing is we were young and distracted, obviously. I mean, some of us more than others, obviously. But, I think it was just one of those that just fizzled. I don't know. Maybe you started coming up with absentee shortly after. I think
that's what happened. So I know I wrote the entire first issue, but I think that as I was writing it, it started. when you're coming up with new ideas and you're writing things like this, it's so easy to lose confidence. It's so easy to, like, even once you finish a full book, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that there is no audience for a book. You know, like okay, imagine for a second that it's, what, late 80s, and you're like, we need an idea. And then you're like, what should we do? What should we do? There are these amazing properties coming out, like, Terminator's out, like Star Wars is huge in the whole world. Like, everyone loves this stuff. What do we make? And then someone's like, you know what we should do? They're teenagers, but they're also turtles. And they're mutants. And it's gonna be amazing. And, okay. But imagine, like, coming up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and having it with, like, having the wherewithal to just go through with it. Like, regardless of, they had to have some doubts. They had to laugh at themselves as they were doing it, even though it's a parody, even though it's, they're sending up, like, other Frank Miller comics, and, they had to have doubts. They had to have thought to themselves and realized, like, okay, this is kind of silly. There's nothing else really like this, and I don't even know there's an audience for it. That's what I know. That's what we were feeling like when we were doing Pseudo Samurai, because it started feeling like, all right, there's this guy in the woods that's a little ridiculous. I don't know if anyone's going to buy this.
He's in a bathrobe. It's awkward.
Bathrobe.
It's Jack Black in a bathrobe with a clip-on bun.
Exactly. Which now I want to work on again because it sounds amazing. No, but so I know that, like, confidence started to wane, and really, I think I was a little bit too distracted by, like, the grittiness of all of the movies that were coming out, where I was like, we might need something darker. I don't think this is really the tone for what people want. Yeah,
you got to figure this is like middle of Christopher Nolan's trilogy of Batman. Yeah. So Sin City's coming out, like, these movies.
So I think I was a little bit insecure because all these, like, grittier movies and, like, just, like, the darker tones, like the more badass characters were coming out, and we were creating this character who was like a faux badass who would eventually become kind of cool, but I never really wanted him to be a great warrior. That was kind of the fun of the whole thing. Like, kind of the fun of Pseudo Samurai was he wasn't a samurai. He had no right to be doing the thing that he was doing. It was totally wrong, and he shouldn't have been in that position of power at all. But he probably, I think if we brought the story further, it would probably be something similar to the Lego movie, where he's not really the great warrior, but he ends up with a group of people who are similarly, who would have been the great warriors.
Who are great warriors.
And he has to learn, but they also learn from him and, like, his creativity, his, like, how unique he is as a person, and how he's willing to do these things despite the fact that it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle-esque situation. Anyway, but I was totally insecure about it, so I started writing this thing and just totally fell in love with it, and it became Absentees. You can also tell, okay, so I was also reading a bunch of, like, dark stuff and, like, random philosophy books, and, like, I read Sartre's No Exit play. That's actually where I got the title for the Absentees, because it's 5 people. It's people who are basically in hell, and they're discussing, what life is like and what their life was like, and blah blah blah. And they're basically like, now we are absent from our life. We're absent from the life we used to have. We have to continue to live with our opinions of one another and ourselves, but we're the absentees. So anyway, so I was just like, a bunch of people. I was like, a bunch of people in hell. Not really hell, but it's a hell on earth. I'm gonna call them the absentees, and I'm gonna, like, work from here. But anyway, so the concept, like, branched out, and it became what would happen if you were in a world in which everyone who had some sort of superpower was evil, was bad in some way, or had some nefarious, purpose. So then
it was almost even ultra, except for 5, wasn't it pretty much super focused as like a serial killer, like, basically, like, detention center, where they basically grab the worst of the worst just to test on them, because no one's going to care about these people being tested on.
Well, and then it was supposed to be like a secret facility where they were testing on the worst possible people who were already basically serving life or in some facility where they would never escape, because they were violent criminals, like career criminals who were serial killers, pedophiles, like all these really terrible people. And what they were trying to do was basically isolate what made them the way they were, like how they could make the decisions that they made and why it was benefiting them, like, cognitively, like why they felt, enlivened by, these acts of evil. So anyway, they were trying to isolate it, and what they ended up doing was pumping them full of these ridiculous drugs, and they accidentally created this cocktail that basically enhanced all of their worst possible traits, and so all of their special abilities became based on what their
enjoyment and murder and the like was, right?
yeah.
Basically,
So whatever their crime was and their preference was, that had something to do with what their their superpower was. So we created this rogues gallery of villains, and we loved them. We the designs started to look really cool. And then we started coming up with the characters, like the actual heroes or the protagonists, and the idea was that the protagonists would have all been affected by these villains at some point throughout their lives.
Each has a personal vendetta with an individual, right?
Yeah, so each had a personal vendetta, and they were out to basically they knew it was they. Okay,
that was actually the chair. Everyone, I'm just that was literally the chair.
Yeah, sure, Steven, do it again. Do it again, Steven.
It's not squeaking.
Yeah, of course
it's not squeaking.
So, okay, so basically what would happen is each character had a very specific reason for having a vendetta against the specific antagonist, and they knew that they were going to die. They knew it was a mission they were going to fail. It was fraught with failure. They knew that no matter what was going to happen, they were not going to succeed in taking on the super-powered monsters of the world. But there were also people who had very little to lose, had a vendetta against these creatures, and wanted to do everything they could in their power to fix it. So it was a comic about underdogs. It was a comic about the underdogs who had passion and wanted to do something that they knew was probably impossible, but they wanted to try anyway. And it was just full of really interesting, fun characters, and we loved it for a while, right?
Oh, so much so that we had basically 3 iterations of it.
Yeah,
there was 3. The initial one, it was just you and me.
Yep.
And I had done because what's cool is all 3 iterations. I wish I could find the other 2 because there's literally the frequency room scene done 3 times.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
That circular chair room was done 3 times, and it's cool. It was cool to see each variation of it. The final one obviously being the best. And the second one was, if you remember, was insanely brutal. Remember, frequency just carved into one of them in front of the other 5.
So in the actual comic book, he has the power to completely manipulate sound. So he can make anyone hear whatever they want, whatever he wants them to hear. He can completely make the world mute for people. He can vibrate. He can basically vibrate the atmosphere, by altering the sound vibrations, and move things around and explode objects. So
like corpses.
So he was ridiculously powerful, which was a lot of fun to play with because the scene, as it was set up, it was a group of people all tied to chairs, and he was just torturing them with sounds. And he was just basically, they were listening to a heartbeat, and they didn't know whose heartbeat it was. And they knew that it was getting faster and faster, and the villain was walking around, the frequency was walking around the chairs as everyone's sitting there. Pretty much playing Duck Duck Goose with these people while he's carrying a knife, threatening to kill one of them, and just monologuing the whole time. But as it turns out, while he's doing this, one of the characters is completely unfazed by what he's doing. But he doesn't know it. All he sees is a character whose facial expressions don't show the wincing and the pain that everyone else seems to show. So he approaches the character and starts just pontificating about how great his power is. He starts, he basically shakes his fist at this person's face while the person is undoing their handcuffs behind their back, and he doesn't know it. And as Frequency finishes his monologue and steps back to destroy the man puts his hands forward and he signs, "I'm deaf, asshole," and then shoots Frequency in the face. Because it turned out he was deaf.
Scene,
and he was one of our main characters and one of my favorite characters.
Jeffrey, right?
Jeffrey, yeah. It was one of our favorite things that we had worked on up until that point, at least, and it was fantastic. And like Steven said, we had 3 iterations of it. This would be the last one. And then basically Steven got all of the work done for the first one, and then why did we stop? I know we had like
It's me. It's always been me. Like right now, even this issue, like I'm doing well. The podcast is keeping me in check, but the pipeline is clogging because of me. So like that's basically what happened. So like the summer in which I drew 24 pages of The Absentees,
right.
Tina and I had a sabbatical. So like basically Tina and I broke up. It was like it was our halfway mark in our relationship. And yeah, we had a summer of misery. But anyways, so I was single and just drawing out the wazoo. I worked at a country club at the time. Mm-hmm. So since we're in Florida, country club life is like this. You work all year round if you're lucky. I was lucky because I'm a hard worker, not trying to brag. But from October to March, April, you are working anywhere from 50 to 70 hours a week, making crazy money, but you're like nonstop. So this is what happened. Tina and I break up in June. I'm a sad lump. Anthony is like my mentor. Like he's basically this person that is just guruing me through my misery. Because at that point you were with the person that we're writing about now, right. But you had actually just experienced a similar situation with your previous relationship where you were with her for yes. a lengthy amount of time. Yes. So like you had already gone through the basically the woes that I was going through. Mm-hmm. And like we basically just said, hey, how about we really, we had this little stint with Scavengers, which we can also talk about, but let's really let's push The Absentees. We already have a few pages done. Why don't we go? So like legit, like that summer I pumped out like 24 full pencils. We had a full issue. And then Tina and I got back together in October. And then that also synchronized with season starting at the club. And then Anthony and I just had like this little argument, and then we had a falling out, and then that was it. And then that project was ceased. And that was basically because of my inability to schedule properly and to put value, because I would like to say it was because of my work, but it was also because of my selfishness with video games and the other things that would basically cause procrastination.
Okay, so that was Absentees. It was a fantastic project. I want to get back to it at some point. I want to rework the overall story, but I think the characters are solid the way we had them.
Am I going to have to draw the frequency slice scene a fourth time?
No.
No, I think we can probably repurpose the issue we did.
I don't know. I really like the characters that we came up with, and the fact that we already have a full issue of it completely drawn it's intriguing. It's tempting to work on that. So after that / in between that, we worked on something called The Scavengers. Scavengers was a really fun project, and it was actually secretly for some reason, but it was tied to Absentees, and it was going to be, it was the sequel basically to Absentees. It was far in the future, knowing that, knowing what would happen to these superpowered beings and the hell that they would wreak, upon the Earth. It was a post-apocalyptic world in which 3 of the characters from The Absentees were walking this wasteland, basically in search of a cure for a disease that they had. It was really interesting. It was full of monsters. It was beautiful, and you were doing probably some of your best work you've ever done.
Which is weird because those pages were like literally in between. Like I think we started Absentees, and then how about we do something more monstery, and then we started drawing. We literally drew, I think it was 6 or 7 pages as like a short to send in. Yeah. And I think did we submit it? We might have submitted.
No,
we didn't submit it. Oh, we could have, because it was like it was the opening visual.
We fit the guidelines. I know we printed the thing, but we never actually submitted it. We should have submitted it.
That cover I did was fantastic.
Here's the cover. Here's like wherever you see right now. Here's a bunch of art from Here's a bunch of art from Scavengers. I think it was all beautiful. We should just show all of it because it's gorgeous, and why not? Okay. So we stopped doing Scavengers because we just wanted to do enough to send in, but then we became reinvigorated by the absentees, right?
And we felt Scavengers was cool, but it felt hollow. It felt weak to stand on its own without its precursor.
I was nervous because the main characters in it were basically cannibals, and
That virus that infected the serial killers or whatever it was in the serial killers transforms into this virus that basically causes the people affected with power to basically become conscious zombies if they do it properly. If they don't do it properly, they become completely mindless beast zombies. Is what
exactly.
It was, right?
Yes.
And it was the people that, and it wasn't even the serial killers. It was the people the serial killers came in contact with. It was like something on their person, like basically infected the people, like with this disease.
Yep, and it just evolved and grew, and our three main characters were affected by it because they were around around all of these monsters and all, the superpowered beings for so long. So they were all affected by it, which means they had the hunger, and if they didn't satiate it just enough, it would grow and develop within them like the worst sort of cancer, like the worst kind of tumor that would take them over and make them into monsters.
Yeah, wasn't it like they had to, like, if they didn't eat, they would die. But if they overconsumed, they would become the monsters. They were basically eating just enough to, like you're saying, and then they would still be slowly transforming, basically. They're basically fighting an uphill battle.
So they were yep, that's exactly what it was. And which was fun because it's, you get to talk a lot about like willpower and wanting to be better than your nature and, all these things, while also having these ridiculous fun characters who are like shooting crossbows off their forearms and stuff. So I loved the idea. It was a lot of fun. But it was making me insecure because it was like, all right, this is a lot for people to take in. It started to feel like we needed one of those like 80s like 80s preambles, like like kind of like a Star Wars scroll, but they used to have the movies where like Star Wars did it right because they have the scroll and it's like you want to read this is the music's exciting, everything's fantastic, it makes you feel good like you're a part of the universe when you're reading that scroll. But
the best part about the scroll though is the scroll's space becoming the first scene of the movie too.
For sure
every time. It's so great.
It's beautiful. But there were so many movies where they would just kind of be like, psh, and it would just like, here's some information you need. It's all the exposition for this world. We're going to give this to you in the year 2092. There are robots. And, like it started to feel like we're going to need this if we're going to get into this world because it's not selling it. Like I wasn't confident enough that the world was selling itself in the book and people were just going to follow the story. And that was probably just my own insecurity. I probably should have just gone along with it and just trusted the reader a little bit more.
That's what it was then. I think we ultimately decided, hey, if we do the absentees, we can show the sores slowly developing on Cole's face. Clancy's like, we could show this process happening. And then the end of absentees basically is like, here you go. And then Scavengers starts taking place.
Yeah, so then, so Scavengers, we stopped doing that because we were in love with absentees again. And the absentees, like Steven described, it stopped because Steven got back together with Tina, but then on top of that, his work just took away all of his time, and then video games took away all his time, and Steven and I just weren't really hanging out because I had a new relationship, and she had 2 kids that I was, helping to raise at the time, and, so it was... We both just had our lives that were just starting, and so basically we were completely neglecting the thing that we love doing, or at least that part of the things that we love doing, which sucked because, it could have been great. But that's why we're doing this, and that's why we have the chains.
So that's our past in summation, basically. And then this time, though, I mean, go ahead. You probably were going to say, I was like, gonna take this from you, but you can go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it, Steven. You got it.
So what led to this most recent development was music again, and we had actually like kind of revisited. By the way, the whole music and comics thing has been kind of a theme in our lives. Like we actually have a song that was for the absentees called "Shark and the Fish," and it was basically like a telling once again of that scene. The characters being manipulated and tortured by frequency. He's the shark, they're the fish, they're these victims in his silly pond game like Duck Duck Goose, And so we had this whole song and everything. So then this most recent venture prior to us starting this podcast and doing Play It Again, we had started getting together with our buddy Mike, which we've spoken about before, who has the spider story. If we ever go back to telling poop stories, and we do need to bring him on. But we were writing music again. And it's like he said, it's actually like the intro song to the podcast is one of our songs we were working on with that project. And then I don't know, we just had the COVID happened. We had a little not falling out with Mike, but Mike basically just fell off the face of the earth again.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a falling out. I would say we were all really enjoying what we were doing. But then once the pandemic came, it started, it became harder to justify being in the same room together. And then, because it's all very complicated, of course, as you know. But then beyond that, it was just, Mike got a new job. And then he wasn't really responding to the texts as much, so we didn't know what to do. So basically, Steve and I were just talking to one another in the group chat, and we were like, what do we do? So, and at the time, in the meantime, I've been making my own solo comic book, called Bullet and the Beast, and it's about a female assassin who's raised in the woods by this, like, really stoic kind of doom prepping father who just wants her to be like the greatest hunter of all time. But anyway, so he starts giving her jobs and telling her to go out and kill these people. Well, one night she goes out to kill this person, and it turns out he's a werewolf. She gets bit, and the rest of the story is basically she has to find out the person who bit her so she doesn't become a werewolf. But she does become a werewolf. So she's a werewolf assassin, and it's fun.
Female werewolf assassin.
Exactly. So if you don't see that there's a running theme of me just having like silly ideas that are also kind of fun but also have more behind them, that's what I do. So anyway, so I started working on the comic by myself. And again, insecurity reared its head, and I was just like, I don't know if I like this art enough. I kept doing it though. I got through it. I finished the first issue. While I was doing it, I was just really insecure, so I started writing a novel because I really just enjoy writing stories in general. So I wrote a full novel, and I've done several drafts of that. And then I had to put that aside because I was like, who's the audience for this weird thing that I'm making? So then I made two other issues of Bullet and the Beast. So now I have 3 issues of Bullet and the Beast completely drawn. And a full novel written and ready to go. And I was like, I have all of these issues and I've done nothing with them. And the reason is because I have issues. I was like, I have so many issues. So I was going to start a podcast, and I was like, no one wants to hear me talk to myself for any amount of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Steven to make a podcast with me, and I'm going to pitch a book to him because I needed something new to work on, and I miss Steven. So I pitched Steven the idea of doing a book together and the idea of doing this podcast together, and he accepted like a sucker. So
I looked at that Tinder profile and was like, swipe up. I don't know.
That's a super like, Steven.
I don't know what. Is that a real thing? Tinder? Like. Tinder came out post. Listen. I asked Tina to be my girlfriend on MySpace, so that's where I was. that's the last time I was in a relationship that required the use of a phone.
That's amazing.
That's a super like.
Yeah, it's a super like. You got it. You super like this podcast.
I feel satisfied with the past. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our past. The past is behind us now.
Oh, okay, so what have you actually been doing this week? Because I know you've made some progress.
I did. I did not meet my 3-page demand, which isn't a
failure.
But I did.
Failure. He failed, everybody. He failed.
I got 2 pretty amazing pages done here and here. These blue, well, they're not done, but the blues are fantastic. I got the timey-wimey, slidey, whitey, awesome page.
I love that.
And then I got proposing down on one knee without a photo reference.
That was good.
Most of my pages don't have photo references. I don't really photo reference. I really should photo reference more. I probably would benefit from that. But
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the way you do it is cultivating a style, and it's really it works for you. And I think keeping it more stylistic as opposed to framed perfectly is benefiting our comic, and I think it looks beautiful. You know, I think that my personal comics, I have a issue trying to like cut corners where like I'll use photo references and do all this stuff, but it ends up being too directly framed, like a TV show rather than a nice film sometimes. You know, so
yeah, I've been, like I've said in the past, I'm really going for that each page is one piece of art, because I mean it is, but I'm literally going for it as if it's one giant image each time. So, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at doing that, but not overdoing it. So yeah, I did get these
you can't overdo it if you fail, Steven. Fail. No, that was great. Your pages look amazing this week.
Yeah, and I did get more done. I wanted to aim high on purpose so I could feel bad.
Right.
So that way I'll still be motivated to keep pushing out more. Because I felt like if I would have set the bar at 1 or 2, I would have done nothing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if I set that pressure high on myself, I'll at least get more done than I normally would. So that's my goal. Yeah, so that's why, like, and eventually I'm gonna hit the mark, because like I am getting quicker. I am getting more efficient with it. The characters are becoming more familiar. Yeah. The vinyl player is more familiar. I'm gonna be drawing similar things over and over again, and it's going to like start, and it is already feeling better. Like these pages are coming out much quicker in time than like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Like these are feeling faster, and it's feeling. They're not only coming out quicker, but I feel like they're looking better than the.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, I think they're looking better, but not in a way that's going to be shocking from page to page.
No, but
because you're doing them in such a timely manner that your growth it's not like exponential, over time. It's just a gradual, natural, organic, escalation, of your own abilities, which is great. You're really doing. Like each page is looking better and better, and it's looking pretty fantastic.
I'm just choosing. I keep continuously choosing to be as dynamic as I possibly can. Like I literally redraw certain things like a few times just to make it more like that. The tube page, I like literally drew him falling down the tube differently. I even had one where he was like his back against it with his knees to his chest and his feet up against it, like trying to do like a stop with like his feet. But it felt like I was doubling up on one of the other images, so I changed. I made it so each one he's falling a different way.
I love it, dude. Everyone, we've been doing this podcast for about 18 weeks now. That's 18 episodes. This is episode 19. 18 full weeks. Steven and I had not seen each other since the very first episode of this podcast, since before the first episode of this podcast, right? So we went more than 18 weeks, that's several months, without actually being in the same room together. We changed that this week, Steven.
We did change it this week.
I got to see you, and I got to see the pages for the comic. I got to see the pages from the comic in person for the first time, and they look amazing. They look phenomenal, and they're beautiful, and I wanted to put my fingerprints on them, but I didn't. But it was so great to see you and Tina and the kids, and I loved it. We filmed a little about 10-minute special, and when do you think we should release that?
I don't know. I think we should. We have different like little ideas for it. But yeah, maybe we can just even put it at the end of this one. I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
I think I'm going to do a separate episode and just do 2 this week.
Okay.
I'm going to release 2 this week and not worry about viewer count and just let it go, because it's a shorter
ride.
So if people don't get all the way through this one, at least they get like a 10-minute quick funny one of us playing songs.
That's fair, because this one felt very kind of information-y and like our lore, which isn't necessarily hilarious, because I almost feel the need to be the jester. Like we've talked about this, where we just have like that jester mentality. So yeah, like that should do a good job of placating like where we missed on the podcast with that this week, as we were super informative. See,
that's true. Well, next week, go ahead.
Next week is present, which is basically just an episode of the podcast. I mean, of course, we're going to still character it up and stuff, but it's literally what we're working on now, and we're going to be talking about our goals for it, probably things like that. And like,
yes. I also thought it would be funny to do like maybe a few clips from previous episodes, since it's
yes, that would be cool.
Yeah, so we can
Oh,
like
let's
kinda
do a clip. Let's do a
do a clip show.
clip-isode.
Yeah,
Let's do a clip-isode.
yeah, that'd be fun. Then we can just like we'll queue up a few clips and
We should film it in front of like a fireplace, like Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Um,
Oh, you
I
mean
remember that one, Anthony.
we need bigger budget, Steven. That's what we need. I hope
getting
I'm
there.
ghostly right now. I'm not.
Listen, before this airs, we could be at 200 subs, but as it stands, we're up to 195. Did you know that?
Wow. Nope, I didn't. That's pretty good.
195.
My birthday is this week. My birthday is in only if
Shameless plug.
My birthday is in 5 days. I am old, and the only thing I really want for my birthday is some free time, some quiet, some peace, some time to write, and mostly I want you to subscribe to our podcast.
You know what I was thinking about doing though?
Go ahead.
I just want to know.
Okay.
Do you have off before your birthday? The day before?
Uh-huh.
Do you have off the day after?
I should, yes. Yeah.
Because I'm renting a house and I'm going to get together with all of your family. So I'm not going to be able to help you with Atlas. So you're going to need to find a
Okay.
You don't have to keep that in. I know that's
but it's so
that's
funny.
lobbing shade, but
it's so funny though.
How could you imagine? It's literally a Seinfeldian moment. Like, it's crazy.
So I don't have people who can watch my son for the most part. The only people who help me with with Atlas are my parents. When my parents aren't working, I go to work. They get to watch my son. Mostly he plays video games and hangs out and does stuff at home. But they are my go-to. They are my rock. They are supportive and amazing and very helpful, and I love them to death. And I'm so thankful to have them. However, it's my birthday week, and it would be so great if they could watch me this week. If they could just like for one day on my birthday, if I can go out, get some shrimp tacos, drink some beers by myself, come home, kiss my baby goodnight, and then have the rest of the night just quiet. That'd be fantastic. It'd be the best birthday. It's all I really need. I don't need a big party. However, what they decided to do, Steven, was they approached me and they were like, "Hey, Aunt, make sure you take off for your birthday, okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah. I mean, I want to. I don't want to work on my birthday. I would love to take off." And they're like, "No, take off on your birthday. You know what? Take off the day before your birthday, that whole weekend. Take off of work." And I was like, "They have something planned. This is gonna be big." I was like, it's a milestone, I guess. Like, I didn't realize. I don't know what's going on. I don't pay much attention. I don't really celebrate my birthday to a great extent. I just like a little bit of quiet, like I said. I was like, here we go. I'm gonna have a pandemic birthday party. This is crazy. What's going on? So I was like, well, what are you guys gonna do? Is this a surprise? What's happening? And they're like, we rented a house. I was like, you rented a house? This is awesome. They're like, yeah. Your aunts and uncles are gonna go. I was like, whoa. First of all, I don't know how I feel about this yet, but it's really exciting. I thank you. This is great. And they're like, yeah. So we're gonna need you to, we won't be able to watch Atlas. I was like, well,
why would someone need to watch him if we're all
why would someone need to watch
together?
If we're having a party for me at a house that you're renting, why would someone need to watch Atlas? Oh, it's because it's not a party for me. It's just a thing that you're doing that happens to perfectly coincide with the day of my birth. So everyone in my family is celebrating my day of birth without me, basically, while I am home with my child. And
it's just the craziest, like, what?
Yeah, that being said, they are going to go on the 14th, which means, and this is the week where Atlas goes with his mom for 2 days. So he'll be gone for 2 days while they're gone. So I will have the house to myself for 2 days, and that'll be nice. I'm going to Tom Cruise around a bit. I'm going to play piano. I'm going to, mostly what I'm going to do this week for my birthday week is finish this book. That's my plan. Like, I'm going to finish my part of I'm going to finish it completely this week. Like grand scheme.
And then you're going to be able to like color, shade, bubble, do whatever you want to the pages that are coming out now.
100%.
Awesome.
But what are you going to physically work on this week?
So I think I'm going to keep pushing blues until I get like, like I've talked about this before, like that, like creative drain. So I'm just going to keep pushing because my roughs, they're not roughs. They're basically final blues. So like I'm gonna be tracing them. So I think I'm gonna try to push out as many blue pages as I can until I like get uninspired, and then I'll start penciling. So I'm just gonna keep going forward with the comic in blues until I decide to start penciling. So maybe I'm thinking at least 2 or 3 more pages in blue.
Awesome. I'm going to completely finish the book and also celebrate my birthday because I don't know, it's my birthday and I was born. So thank you all for listening. Stay tuned because this week we're going to release a second episode because we know this one is full of information. Probably not as funny or as much fun as a lot of our other episodes, but we really appreciate you for listening. When Steven and I got together this week, the thing that we did was we laughed a bunch. We showed Steven's amazing cave. It's the Stevie Wild Cave. And we played some improvised songs this week, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun. Did you enjoy it, Steven?
I did. It was a good time.
So, hey, so if you're watching this right now, tomorrow we're going to have our special episode, which is just a very short, fun episode because we know we have to make up for a lot of heavy, expository or... Yeah, expository, what am I doing? I know the words! But so we're going to release a fun episode. It's only about 10 minutes, but we want to make up for a lot of this like exposition dump that we've been doing in this episode. I hope you enjoyed this anyway. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're only listening to us on one of the various podcasting apps, we do have a video every week. It releases on Wednesday. It's at youtube.com/wehaveissuespodcast. You can join us at facebook.com/group/wehaveissuespodcast. You can also find us at twitter.com/wehaveissuespod. Find us on instagram.com/wehaveissuespodcast. And we're going to be posting random updates from Steven's, all the awesome artwork Steven does and all the pictures that we take and all the stuff. So find us there, talk to us there.
I hope you all have a great week.
I'm Anthony.
I'm Stevie Wildcard.
This has been We Have Issues. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.
My name is Steven. I'm a wild card. Yeah. The claps were out of beat. Everything was off. Couldn't come up with a rhyme.
Failure.